continue our media availabilities with Chase Briscoe, driver of the number 19 Toyota for Joe Gibbs Racing. We'll go right ahead and open up for questions. If you have one, raise your hand. We'll get a mic over to you. We'll start in the middle with Cameron.
Cameron Richardson, NASCAR.com. Chase, 20 years ago, Tony won his first Brickyard 400, and with you coming off 2 runner-up finishes, do you think you can kind of bring in that anniversary, getting your first Brickyard 400 win?
Yeah, it'd definitely be really, really special. I actually texted Tony this week about that. We went to the new museum, and they had that 2005 car over there, and I took a picture of it, and I sent it to him. I said, hopefully another Hoosier can win 20 years later. So, yeah, it would be super, super special. I mean, there'd be nothing like it for me, just from a personal standpoint, than to win this race. So, yeah, we've had a lot of really good momentum these last couple weeks, and hopefully, we can just be one spot better this weekend. Yeah, I definitely will be giving it everything I got, that's for sure.
We'll go to Dustin, then to Lee.
Dustin Long, NBC Sports. I think I heard you say in an interview last week at Dover that you had referenced, like, even before that week, you were driving somewhere and started thinking about winning Indy. And again, I know that I'm sure it's always a thought in some sense, but you kind of mentioned it and said it was something that week. And I don't know if that kind of comes to mind, or can you kind of tell me what the situation was and just kind of how something like that popped in your head? Not exactly the week of the event.
Yeah, I was just honestly, I just got done doing Indy Sim, so I was driving home and just kind of running laps through my head, and yeah, just kind of, I've never really thought about winning a race before, but it was just kind of like imagining what it would be like to win here and do it in the Brickyard 400, and I'd watched Tony's race the night before, like just randomly on YouTube, and just watching his celebration and everything. I just kind of put myself in that moment, just as an Indiana guy, it's just different. Like, I don't know how to explain it, but yeah, I just thought about it. I mean, it was a quick, 20-second thought, but yeah, I just got goosebumps literally as I was driving down the road thinking about it. And I've never thought about winning a race before. So yeah, hopefully you can do it. It would, like I keep saying, it would just be so special to me to be able to win here and do it in the Brickyard 400. And I think some of the reason, I've probably thought about it a little bit more is just this is the first, real time. Last year was only the first Brickyard 400 I've actually ran, but I knew going into it my shots of winning were probably not very high just with the equipment and everything, where now I feel like I have a real legitimate shot. So it's just put things kind of into perspective a little bit more.
And look, I know so many things are happening inside the car, but I think back to the road course race where you thought you were going to have the lead and everything went south quickly. But in that moment, with so much going on, do you have a moment of thinking, hey, I'm about to win this race at this track, even though it was the road course? Or I know so much was happening in a short time, but in that event, but for how much this place means, and you say not thinking about winning a race in a sense.
Yeah, I think, when you go back to that 2020 race, obviously it was a super intense battle, right? And I think it was with 4 or 5 to go when I made the mistake, and I was so caught up in the pressure of the moment, and just trying too hard. And then once I lost the lead, you can kind of go back and watch the race, and you can just see a different style of driving. I felt like those last 3 or 4 laps, and I was so determined that there's no way I could live with myself if I threw it away like that. And obviously was able to get back and win the race. But yeah, I don't know. I definitely, outside of that, it's the only time I've ever felt like I could win the race here, right? Other times I've not really been even in position to do it. So it's just different this time around, coming here in a JGR car and knowing that I know I'm going to be in the mix on Sunday. It's just a matter of doing everything on my end, and hopefully, I can do that to the best of my ability.
We'll go to Lee, then we'll come right here, then to Steven, and then all the way to the left.
Lee Spencer, Sirius XM NASCAR Radio and CatchFence.com. JGR announced this morning that they've re-signed Denny. Can you just talk about what an asset he is to the company?
Yeah, I didn't know that, first off. But, yeah, I think, when you look at the success of JGR, Denny's a massive part of it. He's got 59 career wins, and all 59 have been at JGR. So when you think about a guy of Denny's caliber, he's going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. And, for him to be able to still be at the top of his game, if not, probably in his peak of his career right now, why would you not try to keep that guy in your race cars? So, yeah, I know for me it's been very just interesting and eye-opening, to be able to be teammates now with Denny and be kind of inside the walls and see how he approaches every single week of the season. And it does remind me a lot of, Harvick, kind of when I first got to SHR, just their way of going about, prepping for the weekend and just their intensity level. And, I would say Denny even has way more stuff going on outside of, the racetrack than Kevin has. And, he still manages to put the time in and the effort in week and week out. And that's why he's as successful as he is. So it's been a lot of fun for me just to get to know Denny, the last 5-6 months and be teammates with him. And he definitely, I would say makes all of us strive to be better, whether it's myself, Ty, or Bell. So, yeah, I'm glad that, he'll be there for the future as well.
Also, you said it wouldn't kill you if qualifying rained out, because the metric would put you and Denny on the first row. What kind of advantage would that be at a track like this?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely helps. Anytime you can start up front anywhere, it makes a difference. But, this track is certainly very track position dependent. And I think just, outside of even just starting up front, the pit stall selection, knowing you're getting the second pit stall selection is a huge deal. I do feel confident that if we do qualify, we could still definitely qualify on the front row. But there's also the chance that you mess it up or, do something where you're not starting on the front row. So, yeah, it wouldn't necessarily hurt my feelings if we rained out, just knowing that I'd be in a great position to start tomorrow's race. But so many things can happen, on Sunday, whether you start, second or 38th, you can still get the win. It just makes your life a lot easier, certainly starting up front.
Down here?
Daniel McFadden, FrenchStretch.com. Going off of Lee's first question, in the few months that you have been, or half the year that you've been with JGR, what is something you've learned about Denny being on the inside that you were surprised about?
Yeah, just truthfully how hard he works. From the outside looking in, you expect that, he has a ton of distractions, right, with the 2311 stuff. And, obviously he's got a lot going on at home, with 3 kids. I could definitely relate to that. And, he's literally there more than probably anybody as far as sim work goes from a post standpoint. He's week in and week out in the simulator when he would, I feel like, have every reason to kind of be able to get out of it, especially, he's been doing it for 20 years nearly. Like, I don't know. I think I had the same kind of misconception about Harvick, where I just figured he does it all the time and like he doesn't need the sim work. And Denny puts in, I would say, more sim hours than any of us at JGR. So I think that was the biggest thing that I've kind of been surprised by, and just even how analytical he is. Like every meeting we have, like he's always got data to back up whatever he's talking about. When we do our post-practice sessions, debriefs, like he's looking through every lap graph and data, and it's just very, very eye-opening just how into the analytics and into the data he is. And that's something that I've never really used in the past, and I've tried to start doing more this year just because I've seen that it makes a difference for him. So I would say that's probably the biggest thing.
Thank you.
We'll go in the middle here to Steven, and then all the way to the left, and then the other Steven right here.
Steven Toronto, CBS Sports. Chase, you talked about coming into this race having more of a belief this time around that you can win the Brickyard 400. How much does the win at Pocono, or how much did it kind of embolden that belief and validate that you could come to, I don't know if you want to call Indianapolis a similar racetrack to Pocono, but that you could come here and pull it off like you pulled it off there?
Not a whole lot, truthfully. Certainly if you're going to say, hey, pick a track most similar to Indy, Pocono is the only one that you could even maybe draw slight comparisons to, but it's still so drastically different. Just because you were good at Pocono doesn't mean you're going to be good here, vice versa. So, yeah, I don't think that really made a lot of a difference maker for me, just feeling like I have a legitimate shot here. I think it's more so just I'm in a JGR car, and their stuff's really honestly good everywhere we go, where I'm glad that I was able to run one Brickyard 400 in the 14 car. For me, that was a dream come true in itself. But I would much rather win the race, right? And it was just going to be an uphill battle at SHR. It's no secret that our stuff was off and not where it needed to be. And, now coming here and, one of the powerhouse organizations, I know I'm going to be in the mix just like typically everywhere else we go. So I think that's where a lot of the belief kind of came from.
Thanks, Chase.
Yeah, thanks.
We'll go ahead to the left.
Yeah. Roy Aker, Skyview Sports. In listening to interviews with Joey Logano, and Denny Hamlin over the last couple of weeks, they expressed how important it is for them to have the bucket filler to win this race. Do you consider this one of the majors on the NASCAR schedule, if I could use a golf analogy?
Yeah, I mean, certainly. I think it's a crown jewel. I mean, every race car driver dreams of racing in Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and especially winning. You know, I would say it's different for myself than them. You know, for me, I would put the Brickyard 400 over the Daytona 500 just from a personal standpoint. But you know, I'm probably the only one that feels that way because I'm from Indiana, where you know those guys they just want to win at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. But yeah, I definitely think when you look at the majors, I mean, this is one of the four for sure. So there's a reason everybody wants to win here so bad.
We'll go to Steven and then all the way in the back. And if I have time, we'll come right over here.
Steven Stump, Frontage.com. To piggyback off what the other Steven asked, is there any track that's other than Pocono that's can be used as a comparison to try and prepare for here, or is Indy the oval unique in that it's truly its own animal to try and conquer?
Yeah, I think it's truly its own animal. I mean, you can sit there and say Pocono Turn 2 is similar, but even to me, it drives nothing like any of the four corners here. I mean, yeah, it's maybe the same shape, but the banking feels different. It's way rougher at Pocono. And just the style of racing at Pocono even feels different. So I feel like this place is certainly kind of its own animal for sure.
Thanks.
Go ahead in the back.
Do you love Pat Jaggers, MRN. Chase, San Diego announcement this week. That video was one of the most intricate and one of the most, honestly, coolest things I think the sport has done in terms of promotion for a new race. Can you just tell me everything that went into that and your just thoughts on NASCAR going to San Diego?
Yeah, it was super cool to be a part of. And, you know, we went out there the week of Sonoma, and we knew why we were going out there. We didn't know what the video was going to be or anything like that. And then when they filled us in when we got there, I think all of us kind of bought in and just thought this was going to be the coolest video ever. And I think it even turned out better than we expected. Like, it just made us look really, really cool, right? So, yeah, it was really, really fun to be a part of, you know, and go out there and get to see the base. I mean, that race, I was just talking about it a little bit ago with Letarte and Adam Alexander. It is going to be, I think, the coolest race on the schedule. You know, just the base itself is super, super neat. You know, the scenery there is going to be unlike any other. The pre-race, I can't even imagine how cool it's going to be. And I think even just the racetrack in general is going to be a lot of fun. So, yeah, I was glad that I was one of the 6 guys to be able to be a part of going out there and filming that video. And yeah, it was just they did an amazing job. I think NASCAR in general has done an amazing job this year with the new company they're using to do a lot of the video stuff, and they certainly knocked it out of the park on that one.
I know obviously the course isn't completely done yet, but there is like an idea of what it looks like. Have you taken a look at it and have any thoughts on what it might run, or like just the ambiance of everything around that might entail that course? Yeah, I think it was definitely the same track that they kind of show in the video. That's what, as far as I know, the plan is to be very similar to that. But yeah, we drove around a lot of it, and it's, I mean, for a large majority of it, you're kind of right beside the water, which is really, really cool. There's going to be aircraft carriers, right beside the racetrack. There's one part of the racetrack where we drove by, and I mean, there's probably 60 helicopters just sitting there. I mean, it's going to be so cool, just the scenery in itself. So, yeah, I think that it's actually going to race really, really good. I wouldn't even really call it a street course. I mean, a lot of it's going to be in the runway hangar part of the base, where it's going to be really, really wide. Like, you're going to be able to move around. It's going to be more road course, I feel like, than a street course. But there is going to be parts of it where it's the real streets at the base. And I know they had a little bit of work to do on some of that, just trying to smooth it out and whatnot. But it's I think it's going to race really, really well. It's a long track. It's 3-something miles, which will be interesting. But should be a lot of fun.
All right, we'll take one last question right here.
Chase, we know you're from Indiana. Obviously, this is probably your home track. Can you tell us a little bit about your first experience here and how that experience really gave you the drive to drive here in Indianapolis this weekend? Yeah, so when I was 7 years old, I got a uniform, Simpson uniform, and everybody it would show up originally plain, right? It'd just be all one color or whatever. And when you drive out the tunnel in 1 and 2, there's that brick building right there, and his name was Jim Bob Luger, and he did embroidery. And I was 7 years old, and that was the first time I'd ever seen this racetrack. And I remember getting my uniform embroidered, and getting my name on it, and coming over here and coming inside the racetrack. And that was the first time I'd ever been inside the walls at Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and just being in absolute awe, first off, of a racetrack that's this big. I'd been to dirt tracks my whole life that are a quarter of a mile, and then to see this place in the grandstands, it was just unbelievable.
for this 7-year-old kid to see a racetrack of this size, right? And just remember then coming here, that's probably around 10 or so when I came to my first Indy 500 and Brickyard 400s, and just coming here. And I mean, I used to sneak into the garage area and just try to get autographs and stuff. And once I got older, I was probably 16, 17. I remember once again sneaking onto pit road and passing out business cards and all this stuff. So for me now to be on the other side of the fence and being a competitor, it's just super, super cool for me. I mean, I remember the last Brickyard 400 I came here to watch. It's probably 2013 or so, 2011, somewhere in that area. And I mean, I remember sitting like literally right here. So yeah, it's really, really special now that I'm on the other side of the fence. Now that I look back on it, I think the biggest win of my career is probably sneaking into the garage past the yellow shirts. That's a really, really hard thing to do, but was able to do it a couple times. So yeah, it's just crazy, that 7-year-old me when I went to go get my first uniform, and now I'm racing in the Cup Series here.
I love it. You've had 4 poles this year, 3 consecutive from Daytona to Michigan. How does coming to Indianapolis, getting a P1 spot this weekend, identify in your all-time career achievements?
Yeah, I mean, if I was able to win the Brickyard 400, it would be the biggest win of my career. I don't think I could ever win a race that would mean more. That would mean more to me. That I know realistically I'm going to run. Yeah, the Indy 500 would mean more, but I'm not going to run the Indy 500. So, yeah, I mean, like I said earlier, I would put this race for me personally over the Daytona 500 just because of the significance. I mean, I just was talking about how many times I came here as a kid and what this place meant to me. So for me, yeah, winning on Sunday, there's no race I'd rather win in the world. And, yeah, it would be just so special to do it.
All right, Chase, thanks for your time and good luck this
thank
weekend.
you guys. Appreciate it.